Christians, when we're comparing the morals of atheists versus Christians, whenever they're attacking us, they bring up Hitler, Stalin, Pol Pot. Now, completely forgetting for the moment that Hitler was not an atheist. He was some crazy occultist Christian bizarro. Stalin, Pol Pot, fine. They're atheist, or they were atheist. But atheism doesn't have anything to do with the killings that they were doing, because you'll note that they were both communist dictators, and the killings were all political. So the examples that Christians use for atheists killing people are really politicians killing people, and that's not new for anybody. But more to the point, you don't get atheists defending it. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen an atheist come out in defense of Stalin's slaughter of his 60 million people, or Pol Pot, or Khmer Rouge, or anything like that. You know, atheists don't defend the slaughter of innocents. We just don't. But Christians defend the slaughter of innocents when it's their God doing it. You know, bring up Elisha and the 42 children. He killed, or caused these children to be killed, 42 children, for calling him bald. And you'll find Christians that defend that. They'll say, oh, it just shows how serious it is to mock God, or blah, 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 blah. They're children. They're not doing anything to harm him, and they get killed. And they'll call that moral or good. Then there's the slaughter of the Amalekites. Actually, there's the slaughter of 7 cities, the genocide of 7 cities, when the Jews come back from Egypt. The Amalekites, the Hittites, the Jebusites, I forget. Anyway, I think it's like 7 cities that God says wipe them all out. And, you know, that'll be defended. Or Sodom and Gomorrah, cities destroyed by fire. And remember, all these killings involve children or pregnant mothers, you know, like basically innocents. And Christians will defend this as somehow righteous. Atheists will never defend something like that. So I don't understand how Christians can compare themselves to atheists. And then they'll say something like, you know, we can't hold God to our standards. No, apparently not. God is not even close to our standards. He's way below, far below our standards. You know, there's no case in which murdering somebody is good with some long-term view. It just doesn't happen. You know, if I went out and slaughtered 40 children, that would make me a mass murderer, a monster. But if Elisha does it, oh, well then that's fine. Because, you know, God, even if you believe that God in his infinite wisdom can take the long view of things, Elisha got pissed off that these children are teasing him, and he basically sentenced them to death, and God said, yeah, that's the best approach here, is to kill these children. Fuck the families, fuck the devastation that's going to happen in the town when they find out that a big whack of their children have just been mauled by bears. What are bears doing in the Middle East anyway? Do they even have bears there? Anyway, the point is, atheists don't defend the slaughter of innocents, Christians do. Which leads me to a second point, maybe a deeper point. Why do Christians think that their God is good? I mean, when somebody is good, you don't have to make excuses for their actions. You know, you got a nun, I'm not going to say Mother Teresa because she actually had some bad motivation, but you don't have to defend the actions of a good person. I mean, if somebody decides to devote their lives to helping others, and they're taking, like, you know, they could earn lots of money, but they're taking a crap salary or sustenance wages just to help others, there's nothing there that needs to be explained or defended. I mean, this is somebody who's giving their life in the service of others. There's nothing to explain. But if you claim that somebody is good, and then they beat the shit out of people, now you've got a problem. You've got a little bit of a contradiction there. The claim that someone's good, the act of beating the shit out of someone. You know, like a wife beating husband. The wife may try and defend the husband. Oh, he's really good inside and I deserve to da-da-da-da-da. He's not good if he's beating the shit out of his wife. So you don't have to defend action. Well, actually, to be technically correct, you don't have to defend actions that line up with the expected behavior. You know, like if you say this guy is a brutal son of a bitch and he beats people up, well, there's nothing to explain. He's a brutal son of a bitch and he behaves that way. So there we go. There's no contradiction. But if you say he's a good guy and he beats people up, then you've got to explain something. Now, they say that their God is good. And then you say, well, what about where he's murdering all the babies? You know, burns the babies in Sodom and Gomorrah, the slaughter of the Amalekites, drowns the entire world in the flood, and they come up with some kind of a bullshit excuse in every one of these cases. The fact that they have to come up with something, the fact that they're not confused, like if you said, you know, here's a brutal guy, and he went to a bar and he beat up a bunch of patrons. Explain that. You'd be confused. Because what's there to explain? He's a brutal guy, beat up a bunch of bar patrons. There's nothing to explain. So the demand for an explanation would be confusing. But when we demand an explanation for the acts of God in the Bible, or the acts of God's men in the Bible, they're not confused. They know exactly what we're talking about, and they know exactly what they need to try and cover, the kind of explanation they need to try and come up with. That means they also recognize that these acts are evil. So they know it's evil, and they're covering God's ass. They're giving God a get-out-of-jail-free card. Why? Why keep claiming your God is good when you have to keep this tap dance up covering for his mistakes? It's like you're Stalin's apologist or Hitler's apologist or something, you know? Somebody does something monstrously bad and you're the PR guy trying to spin it into something good. Why are you doing that? And are you even aware that you're doing that? Because atheists don't do that. I don't agree with all the atheists out there. Look at Christopher Hitchens. The guy's brilliant, but I disagree with just about everything he has to say about the war. He was behind invading Iraq. I'm absolutely not. So I'm not going to defend that. There's other stuff that he writes that is good, and there's stuff that he writes that is bad. I'm not going to defend the stuff that I disagree with, but Christians will defend everything. How do you do that? You know, how do you compartmentalize your own morals, your own judgment, to go, well, it would be bad if we did it, but it's okay if God does it. God gets a free pass because he's powerful. See, that's something else I don't get, is that, you know, they claim that God can do these things because he's powerful. So you're saying then that might makes right, that if I basically aimed an atomic bomb at a city or at a few cities and held the whole country for ransom, well, that would be fine. It would be fine for me to demand whatever I want because I had the power to kill them. What's the difference between that and God? So, anyway, to wrap up, atheists don't defend other atheists if they act immorally, and Christians do defend immoral things in the Bible by making up some crazy story, and I don't understand why they still think God is good. Well, thank you.